All right. So you sent us a bunch of stuff on person-centered therapy. Looks like essays on the core principles and stuff, and then how that theory meets practice.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you're really into personal growth and all that, so I think this is right up your alley. One of the things that jumped out at me right away was how PCT looks at the therapist's role.
Yeah.
It's not like the therapist is the expert and you go to them to get fixed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more about like creating the right conditions for the client to kind of access their own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
PCT really sees everyone as like inherently capable of growth and like self-actualization.
Yeah.
So the therapist is really there to facilitate that process, not to like direct it.
Yeah, that's a really different way of looking at it than, say, like a more directive approach where the therapist might be offering interpretations or giving advice.
Right.
But here the client is like the expert on their own experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real shift. Like in perspective. Instead of like analyzing past trauma or challenging negative thoughts,
Right.
PCT focuses more on like the client's present moment experience and how their self-structure, like how they view themselves and the world might be creating roadblocks to their well-being.
Okay, so let's unpack that self-structure idea a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I think that's like a key to understanding how PCT works.
Think of it kind of like a framework built from all our experiences, especially early on in life.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that shapes our beliefs about ourselves and the world. And like we all have this self-structure, but sometimes it gets out of sync with our actual experiences, creating what Carl Rogers called incongruence.
Incongruence.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if someone was raised in a family where like expressing emotion was seen as weak, they might develop that self-structure that says, it's not okay for me to cry or show sadness.
Right.
But then, you know, they experience a loss or something.
Yeah.
And then that belief clashes with like their natural grief response.
Exactly.
And it causes all this distress.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. And that incongruence that you're talking about can show up in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
Like anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Relationship problems. Right. Even like difficulty making decisions.
Yeah. The essay mentioned a client who was afraid to be happy.
Oh, wow.
After a loss because their family kind of, you know, emphasized somberness in grief.
Right.
And they were afraid of being judged if they, like, you know, expressed any joy.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how many of us are walking around with these, like, hidden conditions of worth.
I know.
That we got from our childhood.
Right.
But don't actually serve us as adults.
That's such a powerful insight. Yeah. And it gets to the heart of how conditions of worth can limit our self-actualization.
Yeah.
These conditions are often formed as we seek love and approval from our caregivers.
Yeah.
And it's essentially like they tell us, you're only worthy if you meet these specific expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we end up shaping ourselves to fit those expectations, even if it means like giving up on our true desires or passions.
It's like we develop this like false self to gain acceptance, and we end up suppressing parts of ourselves that don't fit the mold. One of the essays described a client who always felt inadequate compared to their high-achieving siblings. And that belief like followed them into adulthood, making them feel constantly judged. Even in healthy relationships.
It's heartbreaking, but it also highlights like how those early experiences can have such a lasting impact on our sense of self.
And that's where the actualization process comes in.
Okay.
PCT believes that we all have this like innate drive to reach our full potential, to become what Rogers called a fully functioning person, someone who's integrated, self-aware, and in touch with their inner wisdom. It's a lifelong process of growth, but it's totally possible, especially when we have the right kind of support.
And that support, according to PCT, comes from the therapeutic relationship itself. Which is where things get really interesting. Because it's not just about techniques or strategies. It's about the quality of the connection between the therapist and the client.
Precisely. PCT emphasizes 6 core conditions for a successful therapeutic alliance. And honestly, these conditions, they apply to like any strong human connection. It's not just therapy. But in the context of therapy, they create like the fertile ground for healing and growth.
Yeah. So we've got these like 6 conditions that are essential for PCT to really work its magic.
Right.
I'm curious to hear more about how those like actually play out in therapy. Like, what are some of the key ingredients that make that healing connection?
Well, out of those 6, there are 4 that really kind of stand out.
Okay.
First, you need what we call genuine psychological contact.
Okay.
It's like that real authentic connection, you know, built on trust and honesty.
Right.
Without that, it's kind of like trying to build a house on sand.
Right. If a client doesn't feel safe and understood, they're not going to open up and do that deep work of self-exploration.
Exactly. And that's where empathy comes in.
Okay.
Which is so much more than just saying like, oh, I understand how you feel.
Right.
It's about truly stepping into the client's shoes, you know, seeing the world from their perspective, even if it's different from your own.
It's about feeling with them.
Yes.
Not just thinking about their feelings.
Precisely.
Right.
And then there's unconditional positive regard.
Okay.
Which is honestly one of the most powerful concepts in PCT.
Yeah.
It's about accepting the client fully without judgment.
Okay.
Seeing their inherent worth as a human being, regardless of their struggles or mistakes.
That must be so liberating for clients who've spent their lives trying to meet other people's expectations.
It can be truly transformative to be seen and accepted for who you are, flaws, and it can be incredibly healing.
Yeah. And then finally, there's congruence.
Yes.
Which is about the therapist being genuine and authentic in their interactions.
Absolutely.
Clients can totally sense when a therapist is being phony or insincere.
Right.
And it can really damage the trust.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not just about applying techniques from a textbook.
Right.
It's about the therapist bringing their whole self to the relationship.
Yeah, that's the key. Being a good PCT therapist, it's not about following a script. It's about being present, authentic, and deeply attuned to the client's needs.
Yeah.
It's almost like being a mirror, you know?
Yeah.
Reflecting back to the client their own inherent worth and potential.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Now, the essay you sent also talked about how PCT can be integrated with other therapeutic approaches.
Yeah.
Which I found really fascinating. It's not just this one-size-fits-all model, is it?
Not at all. PCT principles can be woven into various therapies, like focusing-oriented therapy, which helps clients tap into their bodily felt sense of an issue, or Gestalt therapy, which uses experiential techniques to bring awareness to present moment experiences.
So you could take the core values of PCT, like empathy and unconditional positive regard, and blend them with the techniques and insights from these other modalities to create a truly personalized therapeutic experience. It's like creating a custom-tailored suit for each client.
I like that analogy. And this integrative approach allows therapists to draw on a wider range of tools and interventions to meet the diverse needs of their clients.
Right. The essay also mentioned motivational interviewing.
Yes.
Which I know is often used in addiction treatment.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear how that connects to PCT.
Motivational interviewing, or MI, is deeply rooted in PCT principles.
Okay.
It's a client-centered approach that helps individuals explore their ambivalence about change and find their own motivation for recovery rather than having it imposed on them.
So instead of the therapist like lecturing or confronting the client, they help the client like uncover their own reasons for wanting to change.
That's the key. It's about empowering the client to take ownership of their journey.
Right.
Recognizing that they are ultimately the experts on their own lives.
Yeah.
The therapist is there to guide and support, not dictate.
Right. The student also touched on how creative outlets, like art therapy or journaling, can be used in PCT, which I find really intriguing.
These experiential practices can be powerful tools for clients who might struggle to articulate their feelings verbally.
Yeah.
It allows them to tap into their emotions and experiences in a non-threatening way.
Okay.
Bypassing the need for constant analysis or intellectualization. It's like giving them a new language to communicate their inner world.
I can see how that would be especially helpful for clients who've experienced trauma.
Absolutely.
Or have difficulty connecting with their emotions.
It provides a different avenue for processing emotions and experiences, which can be incredibly freeing and insightful for some clients.
Speaking of challenges, the essay mentioned difficult processes.
Yes.
Like working with clients who might have experienced trauma or have personality disorders. How does PCT approach those situations?
Those are definitely complex cases, and they require a heightened sensitivity and a deep understanding of the client's unique challenges. But even in those situations, the core principles of PCT, that emphasis on empathy, unconditional positive regard and genuineness, can create a safe and supportive space for those individuals to begin exploring their experiences.
It's like offering them a lifeline of connection when they might feel most isolated and alone.
That's a powerful image. And while these situations can be challenging, PCT provides a solid foundation for building trust and rapport, even with clients who find connecting difficult.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing connection. But about creating an environment where it can organically emerge.
Yeah.
The therapist's role is to provide a consistent, non-judgmental presence.
Yes.
That allows the client to move at their own pace.
You've got it. It's about being that calm, grounding presence.
Yeah.
That allows the client to feel safe enough to start processing their experiences and moving toward healing.
Now, I'm really curious to dive into some of the examples from the student's essay.
Okay.
That highlight how these principles play out in real life.
Yeah.
What were some of the situations that stood out to you?
One that really struck me was the example of a client who was struggling with conditions of worth related to their family's expectations.
Okay.
They felt pressured to become a chef.
Okay.
Because that's what their family had always envisioned for them, even though it wasn't their true passion.
It's like they were trapped in a culinary box, afraid to break free and explore other interests.
Exactly.
That's a classic example of those external expectations shaping someone's self-concept.
Yes.
And limiting their potential.
Exactly. It highlights how these conditions of worth can be so ingrained that they influence our choices and behaviors without us even realizing it.
Another example that really resonated with me was the client who was afraid to be happy after their sister's death.
Oh, wow.
That's such a heavy situation.
It is.
And the fact that they felt they couldn't express joy because of their family's emphasis on somberness is heartbreaking.
It is. And it speaks to how deeply these conditions of worth can impact our emotional responses, even in the face of grief and loss.
It makes you wonder how many of us are walking around with these hidden conditions of worth.
I know.
Shaping our choices and behaviors without us even realizing it.
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
And one that PCT encourages us to explore. By becoming aware of these conditions, we can start to challenge them. And create more space for our authentic selves to emerge.
One of the most powerful concepts I've encountered in exploring PCT is that idea that accepting ourselves is a prerequisite for change. It's a bit paradoxical, isn't it?
It is. Rogers captured this beautifully when he said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. It challenges our conventional thinking that we need to fix ourselves to change who we are fundamentally in order to be worthy or happy.
But PCT suggests that it's actually in that embrace of our wholeness. Even the parts we might not like or want to hide. That we create this space for authentic growth to occur.
Precisely. When we're constantly fighting against ourselves, judging ourselves, or trying to fit into some idealized mold, we create internal resistance that blocks our growth. It's like we're stuck in a tug of war with ourselves, expending all our energy on that internal struggle instead of channeling it toward positive change.
And that's where PCT comes in. It provides a framework for cultivating self-acceptance. And embracing our wholeness, even the parts we might not like or want to hide.
You've nailed it. And it's in that embrace that we find the freedom to grow, to evolve, and to become the best versions of ourselves.
You know, as we've been diving into these concepts, I've been struck by how relevant they are, not just for therapy, but for life in general.
Absolutely.
It's like a guidebook for living a more authentic, connected, and fulfilling life.
I couldn't agree more. It's about embracing empathy. Cultivating genuine connections. And approaching ourselves and others with unconditional positive regard.
Those are values that can enrich every aspect of our lives. From our personal relationships to our professional interactions.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing that we all have the capacity for growth and healing. Regardless of our past experiences or current challenges.
It's a message of hope and possibility that I think we could all benefit from hearing.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, we have the power to choose growth, to choose connection.
Yes.
And to choose a more authentic and fulfilling way of being in the world.
Beautifully said.
The essay also touched on the idea that being a good therapist isn't just about mastering techniques.
Right.
But about the therapist's own self-awareness and continuous learning.
Yeah.
That seems so crucial for creating a genuine and transformative therapeutic relationship.
It's essential. Being a good PCT therapist is about more than just following a set of steps.
Right.
It's about integrating skills with theory and engaging in ongoing self-reflection to deepen our understanding of how we work as therapists and how we show up in the therapeutic relationship.
So it's a journey of continual growth, both for the therapist and the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that journey requires a willingness to be open, curious, and compassionate, both towards ourselves and the individuals we serve.
It sounds like PCT is not just a therapy. It's a philosophy of being human.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Oh, cool.
It's about embracing our shared humanity.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we all have the capacity for growth and healing.
And it's about creating a space where that growth and healing can flourish.
Beautifully said. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the theory and the principles of PCT.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to emphasize that these ideas aren't just abstract concepts.
Right.
They have real-world implications, both for therapists and for anyone seeking to live a more authentic and fulfilling life.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
We've been dancing around this idea of difficult processes in PCT.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more about how these actually unfold in therapy.
Okay.
What are some of the nuances and complexities that therapists face when working with clients who might be dealing with trauma grief or personality disorders?
You know, those are definitely situations that call for a delicate balance of empathy boundaries and skillful intervention.
Right.
The therapist needs to be attuned to the client's emotional state, pacing the therapy to avoid overwhelm, while also gently encouraging exploration and growth.
So it's like walking a tightrope between supporting the client's vulnerability and gently nudging them toward healing.
That's a great analogy. It's about being present with the client's pain without getting swept away by it, while also holding a vision of their potential for healing and growth.
And how does PCT approach those situations where clients might have a hard time connecting or trusting others?
Yeah.
Is it possible to create that therapeutic alliance?
Yeah.
Even when there's resistance or fear?
Absolutely. In those cases, the therapist's consistency, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard become even more crucial.
Right.
It's about creating a safe and predictable space where the client can gradually begin to let down their guard and explore the possibility of connection.
So it's not about forcing that connection,
right,
but about patiently and persistently offering that invitation to connect.
You got it. It's about showing up with unwavering acceptance and understanding.
Yeah.
Even when the client might push back or test those boundaries.
And it's about trusting that over time, that consistent and compassionate presence can help to melt away those defenses and create the space for a genuine connection to emerge.
Exactly. It's a testament to the healing power of human connection.
Yeah.
And a reminder that even in the face of deep-seated fear or resistance, that spark of hope can still be ignited.
Now, I know we've been focusing on the therapist's role.
Right.
But I'm also curious about the client's journey in PCT.
Okay.
What does it look like for them to embark on this path of self-discovery and growth?
It's an incredible journey of self-exploration, often filled with both challenges and breakthroughs.
Yeah.
For the client, it's about daring to look inward, to confront their fears and insecurities, and to embrace their authentic self, even the parts they might have tried to hide or deny.
So it's a process of peeling back those layers,
Yeah.
those masks we wear to protect ourselves, and revealing the true essence of who we are.
Beautifully put. It's about letting go of those limiting beliefs and self-judgments and stepping into the fullness of our being.
And I imagine that can be both exhilarating and terrifying.
You're right. It's a vulnerable process, but also incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
As the client begins to experience acceptance and understanding from the therapist, they start to internalize those feelings, cultivating self-compassion and self-love.
So it's like the therapist becomes a mirror, reflecting back to the client their own inherent worth and potential.
That's a powerful image. And as the client integrates those positive reflections, they start to see themselves differently with more kindness, acceptance, and belief in their own abilities.
It's like that self-acceptance becomes the foundation for all other growth and change.
Exactly. When we can accept ourselves as we are, we create the space to evolve, to heal, and to step into our full potential.
I love that. It's a message that resonates so deeply with me, and I'm sure with many of our listeners as well.
I think you're right. It's a message that speaks to our universal desire for connection, acceptance, and self-actualization.
It's a reminder that we all have that inner spark, that capacity for growth and healing.
Yeah.
And that with the right support and guidance, we can unleash our full potential.
Beautifully said. And it's in that unleashing, that embracing of our authentic selves that we find true freedom and fulfillment.
I'm curious to hear more about those aha moments, those moments of insight and breakthrough that can happen in PCT.
Yeah.
What are some of the common themes or patterns you've observed in your work?
Those moments of insight are often accompanied by a sense of relief.
Okay.
Like a weight has been lifted or a puzzle piece has finally clicked into place.
Right.
Some common themes include recognizing those limiting beliefs and conditions of worth that have been holding them back, realizing that they are worthy of love and acceptance just as they are, and discovering hidden strengths and resources they never knew they possessed.
So it's like they're shedding those old constricting narratives and stepping into a new story, one that's more empowering and aligned with their true self.
Precisely. It's about rewriting those old scripts and creating a new narrative that reflects their authentic values, desires, and potential.
And what role does the therapeutic relationship play in facilitating those breakthroughs?
The therapeutic relationship is the crucible in which those transformations occur.
Yeah.
It's the safe and supportive space where the client can explore their inner world, experiment with new ways of being, and receive the unconditional positive regard they need to embrace their authentic self.
So it's not just about the therapist providing insights or techniques.
Right.
But about creating an environment where the client can do their own deep inner work.
Exactly. The therapist acts as a guide, a facilitator, and a compassionate witness. But ultimately, it's the client's own courage and willingness to explore that leads to those profound shifts in perspective.
It sounds like a truly collaborative process.
It is.
A partnership built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to growth.
You've captured it beautifully. And it's in that collaborative spirit that the most profound healing and transformation can occur.
I know we've been talking a lot about the theoretical underpinnings of PCT.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in the practical side of things.
Okay.
What are some of the specific skills or techniques that therapists use to embody these principles in their work?
That's a great question. While PCT doesn't rely on a rigid set of techniques, there are certain core skills that are essential for creating that safe and supportive space for the client. Active listening is paramount. It's about truly hearing and understanding the client's words, emotions, and unspoken messages.
It is more than just passively taking in information. It's about being fully present and engaged with the client's experience.
Exactly. It's about listening with our whole being. Tuning into not just the words, but the nuances of body language, tone of voice, and the emotional undercurrents that might be present.
It's like we're listening with our hearts as much as with our ears.
Beautifully said. And from that deep listening, we can then reflect back to the client what we're hearing. Both to ensure understanding and to help them clarify their own thoughts and feelings.
So it's like we're holding up a mirror, helping them see themselves more clearly.
You got it. And it's in that reflection that they can start to gain new insights, challenge old patterns, and make choices that are more aligned with their authentic selves.
I know empathy is considered a cornerstone of PCT. But how do therapists actually, put that into practice in a way that's genuine and helpful?
Empathy goes beyond just feeling sorry for someone or trying to fix their problems. It's about really stepping into their world, you know, and seeing things through their eyes, even if their perspective is completely different from your own.
So it's about putting aside your own judgments and assumptions and really trying to grasp their unique experience.
Exactly. It's about meeting them where they are emotionally and psychologically and offering a compassionate and non-judgmental presence.
It's like saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm right here with you in this.
That's beautifully put. And that feeling of being seen and heard without judgment or agenda can be incredibly healing.
So how does unconditional positive regard, or UPR, translate into the therapist's words and actions? How do they convey that unwavering acceptance?
UPR is about accepting the client fully, flaws and all. It's about seeing their inherent worth and potential, even when they are struggling or making choices we might not agree with.
So it's not about condoning negative behaviors.
Right.
But about separating the person from their actions.
Exactly. We can disapprove of a client's choices.
Right.
While still holding them in high regard as a human being.
I can imagine that can be a powerful message for clients who might be used to judgment or criticism.
It is. It's about communicating to them,
right.
both verbally and non-verbally, that they are worthy of love and respect.
Yeah.
Regardless of their mistakes or imperfections.
It's about creating a space where they can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Share their struggles and know that they won't be rejected or abandoned.
That's the essence of UPR. It's creating that holding environment of warmth, acceptance, and unwavering support.
So then how does congruence, that authenticity and genuineness, play into this therapeutic relationship?
Congruence is about being real,
right.
transparent, and authentic in our interactions with the client.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our words and actions with our true feelings and intentions.
So no facades, no pretending to be something we're not.
Exactly. Clients can sense when we're not being authentic.
Right.
And it can erode trust and really damage the therapeutic bond.
It's like they can spot a phony a mile away.
That's a great way to put it. Congruence is about showing up as our true selves.
Yeah.
With our strengths and limitations.
Right.
And allowing our humanity to be present in the therapy room.
It sounds like that can be both challenging and liberating for therapists.
It is. It requires a willingness to be vulnerable. To admit when we don't know something.
Yeah.
And to acknowledge our own mistakes.
But it also opens the door for a deeper level of connection and authenticity.
Precisely. When we're being congruent, we're modeling for our clients the importance of self-acceptance and authenticity.
Right.
And creating a space where they can feel safe to do the same.
It's like saying, it's okay to be yourself, flaws, and all I am too.
Exactly. And that shared humanity.
Yeah.
That willingness to be real with each other is what creates the foundation for deep and meaningful connection.
Now, I'm curious to hear about the student's own experience applying these principles to their work. What were some of their key takeaways or aha moments?
The student really emphasized the importance of self-awareness and continuous learning for effective practice.
Right.
They realized that being a good therapist isn't just about mastering techniques, but about integrating those skills with a deep understanding of themselves and their own values.
So it becomes a journey of self-discovery for both the therapist and the client.
You got it. The student also realized that being a good therapist isn't about having all the answers or being the expert.
Right.
It's about creating a space where the client can discover their own answers and become the expert on their own lives.
It's about empowering the client to find their own path, their own solutions, and their own unique expression of wholeness.
That's the beauty of PCT. It's not about imposing our will or agenda, but about facilitating the client's own journey of self-discovery and growth.
It's about trusting that they have the inner wisdom and strength to heal and to create a life that is authentic and fulfilling.
And it's about providing them with the unconditional positive regard and support they need to embark on that journey with courage and confidence.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into person-centered therapy, I'm struck by the interconnectedness of all these concepts. It's not just about applying techniques or following rules. It's about embodying a philosophy of being human. One that values empathy, authenticity.
Absolutely.
And the inherent worth of every individual.
You've summed it up beautifully. PCT is more than just a therapy. It's a way of life. It's about approaching ourselves and others with compassion, understanding, and a deep belief in our shared capacity for growth and healing.
And it's a reminder that even when facing adversity, we have the power to choose connection. To choose authenticity.
Absolutely.
And to choose a more fulfilling and meaningful way of being in the world.
I couldn't agree more. It's a message of hope and possibility. That I think we could all benefit from embracing.
So as we conclude this exploration of PCT, what's one key takeaway you hope our listener will carry with them?
If there's one thing I hope they remember, it's this. You are worthy of love and acceptance just as you are. Embrace your wholeness, cultivate self-compassion, and approach yourself and others with the same empathy, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard that we've discussed today.
Beautifully said. And remember, the journey of self-discovery and growth is ongoing.
Yes.
Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and never underestimate the transformative power of human connection.
Who knows, maybe this deep dive has planted a seed. A seed that will continue to sprout and grow long after this episode ends.
That's our hope. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep embracing the beauty of your own unique journey.
Keep on rowing.